Good afternoon to one and all, and welcome to this Government of Angola press conference. We apologize for the delay as we've been experiencing some technical difficulties. We'll start off by asking Honorable Shelia Rogers Webster to open us with a word of prayer.
Thank you very much, Janelle. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather here to update the general public on the happenings of the government of Angola in this country. We ask that you continue to guard and bless and protect this great nation of Angola. We ask and pray, dear God, that you continue to bless the government of Angola, all leaders of the Angola House of Assembly. We ask and pray that you guard and protect the media, those who are here, those who did not present. We ask and pray that you continue to strengthen all of us, dear God. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. Thank you. We'll start off by extending our condolences to the family, friends, and loved ones of Travis Party of Stony Ground, Dolores Bantapool, Nikwan Nguyen, and Junior Alexander Astasio Rogers. And the last two, Nikwan Nguyen and Junior Rogers, were victims of a double homicide which took place last week, Monday. As a result, we would have canceled our government press conference and we would have visited the community of Island Harbor to extend our condolences and be with the community at that time. We will start off by asking the Commissioner of Police, who has joined us today, to give us an update for him to take us forward at this point. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Premier. Pleasant good afternoon, everyone. Following on from the Premier's introduction, sometime between 5:30 a.m. and 6 a.m. on Monday the 27th of April, police received reports of gunshots in the island harbour. On attending the scene, a 16-year-old male victim was found deceased in a vehicle, and another male, 26-year-old, was found deceased in close proximity to his home. Both young men had died as a result of a number of gunshot wounds. As a result of the inquiries which commenced, a number of arrests were made, and following those inquiries on the 30th of April, a 30-year-old man, Delrado Harrington of Island Harbour, was charged with the offence, Harrigan, of murder. I apologise. He remains remanded to custody in His Majesty's Prison, Anguilla. Inquiries remain ongoing in relation to the two murders. I will speak further, perhaps next week, on those, but there is significant work which is ongoing at the moment in relation to those two murders. I will also add that it has been a busy weekend for the RAPF. On Saturday evening, a male was stopped in a vehicle. The vehicle was searched, a handgun was recovered, and that male is now in police custody. Yesterday, RAPF received information from NCBA in respect of financial thefts via ATMs which had occurred on the island. Within approximately 90 minutes of receiving that information, police made an arrest, recovered property, and that individual is also helping police with their inquiries at the moment. Thank you, Premier.
Thank you. We will open the floor for questions, and once those questions have been completed, the Commissioner of Police will be free to leave. So, are there any questions or comments at this time?
Commissioner, you made mention of an individual being arrested for the ATM incident, is that a local or foreign person doing that?
I wouldn't like to say just at the moment, Mr. Gums. I think that will probably become pretty clear whenever the charges are laid. So I would just watch our Facebook page over the next few days. Good afternoon, Mr. Brooks.
In relation to the Ben Harbor incident, can you tell us what led to the suspect being arrested? What pieces of evidence maybe led to the suspicion that this person is the offender?
That will become more clear as the preliminary inquiry and the trial moves forward. But it was after 3 days of extensive inquiries that the RAPF had made that we believed, and the Attorney General believed, that we had sufficient evidence at this time to charge the individual who was mentioned. I think it only right that I remind people that there is the burden of innocence until proven guilty, but it was after 3 days of extensive work.
How confident are you that a conviction will be there?
I'm always hopeful that with the work that you put in and that the force put in, I know for the last week the amount of extra hours, additional effort that has been put in with the detectives. You will have seen, and I hope you've seen, the additional patrols that have been put on across the island for both public reassurance. But I work closely with the AG's chambers, if I can say that. There is the due process to go through, and I'll leave it at that.
How different is this model compared to the two previous models in Southern and North Point? Can you give us an update on those two also?
What do you mean when you say what's the difference?
Is there any relation to any of them?
You mean, are they interlinked? No, we don't believe so at this stage.
Can you provide an update on those two?
All I will say is at the moment that there are forensics which are currently away to our new forensic provider in the United Kingdom. And we are hopeful between that and some of the ballistics which we've done that may open up further lines of inquiry.
For some years now we've been hearing that there is a urgent need for island-wide CCTV. I know money was budgeted for CCTV. How close are we to achieving that goal of island-wide CCTV to help in crime fight efforts?
I was at a meeting this morning, but I think it's only fair that the Minister for Maiku perhaps might update on that. But things are progressing very well.
Just for clarity, I'll give an update to the CCTV and the meeting we had this morning when I give my substantive update.
Good afternoon, Mr. Richardson.
I ask you, so the 30-year-old male that been charged with the murder of two young men in Island Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell us whether or not he had been having any interest with the law before that incident?
You will have, and I'm very glad you brought that up, there was a social media post that I am aware of, and if you check our Facebook page, you will see that someone has put up that the suspect had been evading custody for over a year and that the people of Island Harbour were not assisting. That is completely false. The individual who was in the poster, who is currently charged, was arrested within 24 hours of that poster being published. He was interviewed, he was charged, he went before the courts, and he was released on recognizance. So the material that is being put forward is both incorrect and disingenuous.
Has a weapon been apprehended?
We just have to access and we have to repeat it. We have to repeat it.
Has any weapon been found on the scene or confiscated or whatever? In relation to the murder in Panama?
So the murder weapons in Island Harbour have not yet been recovered. And as I've already said on our Facebook pages, there will be people who know where they are. I would ask those people to use the confidential website or to reach out to someone that they trust so that we can recover those.
One last question.
You can just have to ask a question. Oh, yes, sir. So they have chances. Next time, think about it.
I just want to ask just my last questions related to Angola and how it relates to relationship with the public. From the time you came to Angola a few years ago, you have always been echoing and asking the public to come forward with information. Has it been any better?
Yes, it has.
Has it improved?
Yes, it has.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. You are free to leave.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day. We will now start our presentations by the elected members. We'll start with the Honorable Shelia Rogers Webster, and we will open the floor for her for questions as well, as she has to leave early, and then we'll continue along with the other elected members. Let me say up front that elected members provide updates every other week on current events, and at times questions are asked about matters not arising out of the updates given at the press conference. And so if there are questions that are being asked that do not arise out of the updates from today's conference, and sometimes questions are asked about events that took place 2-3 years ago. If matters are arising out of questions about matters not coming out of this press conference, then we will take a note and we'll respond to those questions at the next press conference. So with that, I'll ask Honorable Shelia Rogers Webster to lead us off. Thank you.
Pleasant good afternoon again to everyone listening via Facebook Live or Radio Land. Pleasant good afternoon to everyone. I'll start with the area of probation. Zenata Havens Juvenile Residential Center. It observed 17 years of operation this year under the theme 17 years of changing lives, one step at a time. A number of activities have been planned for the week. There was an opening church service on Sunday at City of Faith Church. Also, I encourage persons to listen out for scheduled probation tips on Radio Anguilla today, Monday 4th, and Wednesday 6th as well. And there'll be some other activities throughout the rest of the week in celebration of that. As the public knows, we're in the process now of awaiting the final designs for the new Zenata Haven facility. As soon as those designs are ready and approved, they will go immediately out to procurement to build the facility, as that has been budgeted for the 2026 budget. Under the Community Services Planning Unit, the Community Services Planning Unit, together with the Community Development, Officers successfully hosted an Easter camp across Western, Blowing Point, and Island Harbor, engaging over 80 students over that period. I wish to put on record our sincerest gratitude to a number of the partners that supported that initiative. The Department of Youth and Culture recently inducted and pinned the executives and members of the Anguilla National Youth Council and the National Youth Ambassador Corps. That was held last week, Wednesday. I wish to put on record my sincerest congratulations to all of the individuals for all of the hard work that some of them have done and will continue to do in that capacity. Also, the Malihana Poetry Committee is inviting all persons to the performance round and award ceremony of the Malihana Poetry Competition this week, Wednesday 6, beginning at 6 p.m. The Malihana Poetry Competition Committee is made up of representatives of the Department of Youth and Culture, the Anguilla Library Services, and UWI Global Campus. I now shift to education. We're in the process currently of having a series of meetings over the next 2 months with different stakeholders in the area of education. This week we're starting with the preschool teachers. We will have on Wednesday afternoon from 1:30, all preschool teachers are invited to attend at the Teachers Resource Center. This will be an opportunity to have in-depth and engaging discussions with myself as minister, but also it'll give the preschool teachers an opportunity to share any concerns, any issues, challenges, and feedback that will help me to prepare more adequately for the new school year, but also for the new budgetary period as well. And as I mentioned in the last press conference, this is part of a series of ongoing meetings with different stakeholders in education. We've already met with the entire maintenance team in education 2 weeks ago in preparation for the effective reopening of schools. So we have a number of meetings lined up, and we'll take those meetings straight up to the June period. Thank you. Any questions?
I think it would be great and proper for me at this time to simply comment on the points raised by the Premier, and that is from the time this government came into existence or was elected office, I have been posing a number of questions in this press conference, and all I've been hearing at the next press conference is over here, and I have not received any answers to any of the questions that I've asked. And to limit us, the press, to just simply asking questions based on what is being presented, I think is unfair, is unjust, is unreasonable. In addition to that, I host a talk show program called To The Point, and I have been extending invitation after invitation to all members of the government to come to the radio station where I can simply ask the ministers questions, and one by one everybody repeats including me. So I have to ask now, why is it that the government of Angola find itself conveniently going to one particular radio station, having a show on a particular radio station, and you are here to represent all of Angola? So what is the reason why you are not finding the time to come to sit down on any other radio station to ask questions?
So thank you for those questions, Mr. Richardson. I'll start from the last question, move back. This is a government. The last question that was asked is why is it that the government of Angola is not going on any other radio station than one? Number one, that is not accurate because members of this administration have attended other radio programs. But more importantly, this is a Government of Angola press conference that we're here at today. And so if it is that you are issuing an invitation for a radio program that's not part of this government press conference, that's something separate and apart from why we're here today. Today, this is a government's press conference where we are updating the people of Anguilla as to the current issues that are taking place in our respective ministries. And it's important that we do so because people want to know what's happening. And that's why we come every other week religiously to our press conference and we update the public as to current events. In terms of the statement that I made earlier, you are not being limited from asking questions that do not arise out of this press conference of the statements made. What I've said is that in the event, there are questions that arise not relating to the current presentations that are made today, and at any other press conference, then a record will be made and you will receive answers at the next press conference. And the reason for that is simple. Questions are asked at times asking for figures, asking for details, asking for information that we do not have access to because it is not arising out of the statements and the presentations that are made. And so it's unfair for questions to be asked to the ministers about something that took place 2 years ago and expect the ministers to have answers on hand. And so if it is that questions are being asked about dated information, chances are the ministers do not have access to that information right away to be able to give you an answer. And so that's what I'm saying up front, that if questions are asked, not arising out of the presentations made today, and if the ministers have the answers, then they can answer. But if they don't, then a note will be made and a response will be at the next press conference. You've made mention about questions being asked that were told at the next press conference, you never received that information. I do not know. I don't have a record as to what those questions are. But if you have those questions still, then forward it on to the respective minister, and I'll make sure that they respond to those questions that you've raised. Okay?
Last one is relating to the invitation.
Yeah, as I said to you, the invitation is something separate and apart from this press conference. We are here at the Government of Anguilla press conference, and I do not propose that we address your invitation for your talk show, which is separate and apart from this press conference. That's in a different forum. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we'll ask Honorable, if there are no further questions, I'll allow the minister to leave. There are no questions on education, I'll leave, or social development. So thank you, Minister. And I'll ask the Honorable Jason Bryan to continue.
Thank you, Premier. Good afternoon to everyone. I will continue the updates from MSDE. The Community Service Planning Unit started its series of community walkthrough, also known as Transit Walk. These engagements are intended to connect with the community stakeholders to better understand the unique needs, strengths, and opportunities within each community. They are a critical part of informing the program planning process and ensuring that interventions through the community development centers are community-driven and relevant as we expand on the center's programming. So the schedule is as follows. Island Harbor was already done. It was last week, Tuesday, April 28th at 4 o'clock. Blowing Point is May 7th at 4 p.m. Hope Center, Sandy Hill, May 13th at 4 p.m. and West End, May 22nd at 4 p.m. During this month, the Department of Youth and Culture will partner with the Community Service Planning Unit to host a series of cultural engagement under the theme, What Makes Us Anguillan. These activities are designed to promote intergenerational exchange and celebrate indigenous traditions, ensuring that young people and community members alike are exposed to and engage in Anguilla's rich cultural heritage throughout the month of May. Activities will be like Johnny cake making, fish frying, and most importantly, intergenerational conversation, which will bring elders and young people together to share stories, cultural knowledge, and reflections on how things used to be. This helps to strengthen connection and identity. The schedule for those events will be Hope Center, Sandy Hill, May 12th and May 20th, Blowing Point, May 18th and May 29th, Island Harbor, May 30th, and West End, May 28th. These are all within the community centers. Continue with the community centers. Hope Center Sandy Hill currently has 6 functioning computers, and services like printing, scanning, and photocopying are available to the public. Blowing Point has 12 functioning computers and also offers to the public printing, scanning, and photocopying, both of them from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. The Community Service Planning Unit also is aired monthly on a radio segment, Community Conversations, Families at Heart, which airs in collaboration with Social Solutions program on Radio Anguilla every 4th Saturday of the month from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. This is providing a dedicated space for open dialogue on issues affecting families and communities. It started officially March 2026. So the next segment is on Saturday, 23rd May 2026. And I will also like to congratulate the new cohort for the Anguilla National Youth Council and the National Basketball Court, which were pinned officially last week, Wednesday, at the Governor's House. In terms of sports, today begins an exciting journey for baseball. We will have on island this afternoon former college coach, manager for minor league club Alexandria Dukes, affiliated with the Pittsburgh Pirates, former San Francisco Giants scouting supervisor for Mid-Atlantic region, and currently the special assistant for general manager of Kansas City Royal baseball team, Mr. Mike Toomey, and the former baseball player for AA Texas Rangers, minor league, Mr. Andrew Dixon from Jamaica. Both will be delivering a week of baseball clinic at the Coronation Park starting today at 5 p.m. We have 2 active clubs, which are Hit Your Second Shot and the Anguilla Little League, with a total approximately of 30 players in total between both of them. I wish to thank the Department of Sports for their continued work in making this possible. And lastly, the softball team will be representing Anguilla and Tortola for the 4th Classic Softball Tournament from next week, Wednesday until Sunday. It is an adult male and female fast pitch tournament. The participating countries are British Virgin Islands, St. Martin, Jamaica, U.S. Virgin Islands, Dominican Republic, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, and a team from New York, United States. I will also be joining the team on their journey to Tortola. That will be all for me. Any questions?
Good afternoon again.
Yes.
In reference to the community centers, you made mention of scanning and copying. Is that a cost or is it free to individuals?
Yes, currently it's at a cost. It's 1 EC for copies. So it has a cost, but it's very minimal. It's 1 EC, 50 cents, and etc.
Put on the other one. Put on the other mic.
Yes. Good afternoon again. Can you please give us an update on the proposed track and field? I know it's been a few weeks now since the last update. What's new regarding it?
Sure. So currently we are still in the works of the land acquisition, and I will allow the Minister for Lands to provide the update.
Okay.
So are there any other questions?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Brooks. The most I can say at the moment, because we know the process of compulsory acquisition is a very tedious one that has to be followed carefully in terms of steps. What we have been able to do thus far is to have a good sit-down conversation with members of the family. And what I'll say is that we are all on the same page. So what we're going to do is allow the process to just continue to move forward. We are hoping that within a few months, we'll be able to have access to that land.
Minister Hodge, are you saying to us here this afternoon that lands have been identified,
Yes.
but are you
So the-
saying
The question is whether or not lands
has been identified?
has been identified. Yes.
Where are
We
these
have
land-
identified some lands
W-
to the east of Campus Q, and this is something that we would have said on a few other occasions.
Is that the same lands that has is owned by the Barbaros and had some sort of controversy as related to ownership?
Well, I know that the land identified is a parcel belonging to an estate.
By
to
the
the e-
Barbaros,
To the east of Campus Q.
by the Barbaros.
Right.
I have heard about that, but I've been also told that the person who were negotiating with the government were not in the legal position to do so because he did not own the lands, and that there was some issues between the rest of the family and him as relating to going forward. So I'm just wanted to know if those matters were resolved.
Well, we are working through all this. Several members of the family we are having conversations with.
And my last question now that we have reached the stage, so the area that were originally identified that you and other members of the government claim would have been utilized if World Athletics would have come through, that is in off the records now?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
All right, so I can get into my updates. Good afternoon to the press. Good afternoon to the people of Anguilla. Over the weekend, I received several calls and videos of construction taking place directly to the north of the Bloom Point Ferry Terminal, as it was concerning to people in the area and people who would have realized what is taking place. It is also concerning to us as government and also concerning to ASPA as a port. The land was acquired in 2018 under the Anguilla United Front administration. Although it was effected through compulsory acquisition, it was done in good faith and pursuant to an amicable agreement. The former APM administration, with their short-sightedness, saw this land return in 2022 after a scaling down of the Bloom Point Ferry Terminal project. The landowner decided to enter into a private sale to another Anguillian in 2025. The new owner of the land applied for planning permission in June or July of 2025 and received permission in February of 2026. The new landowner was engaged for a possible arrangement with the government, where the government of Anguilla would acquire the parcel. We went back and forth, but at some point, the negotiations fell apart. It is important to note that once this land was returned by the APM administration in 2022, it became private property once again. What that meant is that the landowner had the legal right to develop the land since then. Since coming to office in March of 2025 to present, we have had several conversations with the landowner. That said, we are still in a position to reach an agreement, and that remains our primary focus at this time. Now that the government has its processes in place, we intend to negotiate in good faith, fair, and amicably with the landowner. Moving on to water. Procurement notice for the installation of utilities, mains, manholes, and appurtenances, Jeremiah Gomes Highway. So the Ministry of Economic Development, Industry, Commerce, Lands, Planning, Water, and Natural Resources intends to apply a budgetary allocation to payments under a contract for the installation of utilities, of utility mains, manholes, and that word does mess me. Appurtenances, Jeremiah Gomes Highway. We now invite sealed bids from eligible bidders for the services as identified within the bidding document. Bidding will be conducted through a competitive bid procedure in keeping with the Public Procurement and Contract Administrations Act and regulations. To obtain a complete set of the bid documents, bidders shall indicate their interest to the Chief Procurement Officer via procurement.mailbox@gov.ai. The subject of the email shall read as follows: installation of utility, mains, manholes, appurtenances, Jeremiah Gomes Highway, along with the procurement number. Please include the company name, address, phone number, and contact person in the content of the email. A pre-bid meeting was held at 9 a.m. this morning at the Department of Water Services building. Sealed bids should be received no later than Wednesday, 13th May at 12 p.m. Late bids will be rejected. Bids will be opened publicly at the Ministry of Finance on Wednesday, 13th May 2026 at 2 p.m. I want to wish all interested parties good luck on their submissions. Just an update from Department of Natural Resources. AgriFest 2026 is happening this Friday, the 8th of May, 2026, from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Coronation Avenue in the Valley. The Department of Natural Resources will be hosting AgriFest 2026. This exciting national event, hosted by the Department of Natural Resources in collaboration with the Anguilla Tourist Board and other valued partners, promises to be an amazing all-day event. I encourage all to mark your calendars. Put in for some time off from work to attend. Come ready to purchase produce, snacks, food, and drinks. AgriFest is a celebration of agriculture in Anguilla and a reflection of our commitment to strengthening local food systems and building a more sustainable future for our people. The theme this year is transforming local food systems to feed the future. This year's AgriFest will showcase the very best of what Anguilla has to offer, from our hard-working farmers and fishers to our agro-processors, innovators, and young people entering the field. Attendees can look forward to a wide variety of fresh fruits and vegetables, locally sourced meat and fish, guided tours highlighting agricultural practices, technology and equipment displays showcasing modern farming solutions, hands-on demonstrations for both aspiring and experienced farmers, a vibrant atmosphere with live entertainment and trivia. There'll also be competitions at this year's fest. There'll be a fowl catching competition, mango eating competition, roast corn competition, cleaning and filleting of fish competition, a greasy pig competition, and last but not least, a mechanical bull competition. Come ready to have fun, come ready to eat, come ready to drink, and come ready to ride the mechanical bull. Registration is still open, and we welcome all participants from across Anguilla. Because we missed last Monday's press conference, I had an update on the fuel situation in Anguilla. I would have edited it just a bit so that it can be read today. So on April 23rd, the Premier, representatives from the Consumer Affairs Unit, Giovanni Francisca and Jamisa Gomes, and I met with the management team from SAL. The SAL team included Regional Manager for the Eastern Caribbean based in St. Martin, Mr. Robert James, the St. Kitts Country Manager and former Anguilla Manager, Mr. Dexter Ward, and the current Anguilla Country Manager, Mr. Ferris Elms. The meeting focused on the following key areas: Sunoco's acquisition of Delta. We had a very frank discussion on many topics, including issues surrounding the official notice of acquisition and the communication gaps, the background and framework of the acquisition, consolidation of market share, short and medium-term operational and staffing implications, energy and national security considerations arising from a monopolistic market structure, additional storage capacity and its potential implications, corporate social responsibility moving forward, security of the fuel supply chain, possible alternative sourcing options, transparency, the removal of the import duty, customs service fee, and excise tax, impact of these measures at the pump, and the continuation of price ceilings for gasoline with monitoring of diesel prices possibly coming, and the possibility of reduced fuel pricing for fisherfolk. As many are aware, on April 1st, Sunoco officially acquired Delta. Since then, there has been ongoing review of staffing arrangements and operational transitions. At present, SAL and Delta continues to operate as separate businesses, each sourcing and ordering fuel independently from the same supplier. It should be noted that Delta currently does not have a country manager, which has contributed to some recent operational challenges. Historically, many of these functions were managed by personnel in other jurisdictions prior to the acquisition. In situations where Delta has depleted its on-island fuel stock, SAL has confirmed it will supply Delta-branded retail stations and continue to honor existing Delta agreements. SAL has also committed to engaging Delta distribution stations as existing agreements would have transitioned following the acquisition. These discussions also will explore interest in future developments and potential partnerships. Over the weekend of the 26th of April, several Delta stations did in fact run out of fuel. This understandably raised public concern. Upon becoming aware of the situation, I contacted the local SAL manager directly and was advised that fuel was available on the island and that deliveries to the affected stations were scheduled for Monday morning. That would have been the 27th. The temporary closure of several Delta-branded stations caused consumer anxiety, and our office began receiving calls. In response, we issued a public statement to reassure the public and help maintain calm. However, by that time, panic buying had already begun. On Monday, April the 27th, SAL received approximately 3,000 barrels of fuel. All stations were fully supplied. The tanker was in from 6 a.m. that Monday morning, and SAL trucks were on the road delivering fuel before 8 a.m. on that same day. This experience underscores an important lesson. As a government, we expect our suppliers to be prepared to communicate with us in real time, and equally important, to communicate clearly and promptly with the general public. Timely and accurate information is critical to preventing unnecessary concern and misinformation. So this is something we will reinforce with our fuel suppliers. While there have been some transitional challenges, we are confident these issues will be resolved quickly. The government will continue to monitor the situation closely to ensure stability and reliability in Anguilla's fuel supply. Thank you. You gonna do questions? Questions?
Yes. Now that both major suppliers, SAL and Delta, have one owner, what does that mean for the fuel surcharge or the bulk fuel levy? I know it's currently at about $500,000, $500,000.
$750,000.
$750,000.
Yeah.
And both SAL and Delta would have been paying that. Will it continue that we are only one $750,000?
I believe because it's one company, there's only one company that will be paying that bulk fuel license.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. In relation to Anguilla gases, do they also pay the bulk fuel levy?
No.
Why not?
That's a very good question. When the bulk fuel levy came into being under the last administration, it was only considered for the larger bulk importers to pay that license fee or that annual levy. I don't think that an independent supplier of fuel would be able to afford it, first of all, and they wouldn't be able to spread the costs as far and wide as SAL and Delta would be able to. Because we have to understand SAL and Delta are huge companies that from time to time also supply liquid fuel. So they have more means of being able to spread that across the various pumps.
So I don't know if you have an answer to this, but why is it that the SAL and Delta stations are about 3C more than the Anguilla gases?
The cost? You said 3EC?
About $3C more, $16 and cents at Anguilla gases, and at SAL and Delta is almost 20C.
1990.
I was wondering why such a huge gap in comparison, given that fuel prices are about the same for everybody, I would believe.
Yeah, I'm not aware of the 3EC difference at the moment. The last update I would have given on fuel, Delta was selling at $19.90, and SAL was selling at $19.38. They had a slight reduction recently. Anguilla gases, Anguilla gases is at $16.26. They source their fuel out of Puerto Rico, and then they don't have to pay the annual bulk license of $750,000. So some of that may be a couple factors as to why they are lower.
Share with us, Mr. Hodge, as it relates to some letter that you had issued some time ago speaking to the fact that the cost for fuel were kept at a certain number, and that has since changed. People are sort of asking, why was this allowed to happen?
So the max price isn't a price that stays at one price. It varies based on the cost of fuel on the global market. So the max price restricts the profit making of those companies. It does not restrict companies from applying for an increase. So from time to time, once increases are received by these fuel suppliers, they would then write to Consumer Affairs requesting that the price cap also increase to adjust the additional costs that they are paying.
So you misled the public to a certain extent then?
Can you repeat?
So you misled the public in believing that the price for them kept at a certain number?
Well, that was never the intention. If the public
came over that way.
If the public was misled, I apologize for misleading the public. But the intention was to communicate that at current, these are the different caps at the different stations. Not that we can control any global increases. So that's the intention was to just indicate that currently these are the max prices. But they are always subject to change.
While we're here, you mentioned the Consumer Affairs, and I think some time ago I had asked for the government of Anguilla to pay a visit to some of these business places, because a number of business places are selling their products, their goods, and they're not displaying the cost on the shelves. So as a result of that, people are going to the counter and have not a clue as to how much money they have to spend, and at the same time, they don't know whether or not they've been ripped off or not. So I want to know if anybody from the Consumer Affairs unit has gone out to do the policing and checks as relates to that suggestion.
Yeah, it's being done. Currently, there's still no legislation to really back the Consumer Affairs unit. But as much as possible, they go out and they speak with owners and they encourage supermarket owners, that it is the best thing to do, it is the right thing, and it is the fair thing to do to have your goods priced. We have consumer affairs legislation drafted, so it's supposed to be coming into effect sometime this year. So that is an exercise that is still to be undertaken.
So when this exercise is completed and legislation is before the House, then it will mandatory that everybody who's selling items display the
Prices.
cost of the items on the shelves or on the items themselves.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I know this wasn't brought up today, but what is the position with the pipes that we have and procurement for the laying of those water pipes on the eastern end of the island?
That's the document that I just read. I read out the procurement notice.
Oh, okay.
So that notice is for the Jeremiah Gomes Highway to begin laying of pipe.
But I know I heard you mention of Jeremiah, but I didn't
Yeah.
realize you make mention of on the eastern end of the island.
Yeah,
also.
so that's the second phase. So the procurement document for that eastern end project will begin shortly. Yeah.
Yes, this question may span a few of you all. I know Mr. Connor may want to add, and Premier may also want to add. For some time now, we've been talking about diversifying our economy within tourism, offering more things. Some years ago, there were proposals for casinos and jet skis. And since a couple of years now, we haven't been hearing anything on those things. What is government's position on possible jet ski legislation and casinos?
Well, it's the jet ski legislation. If I want to start on that, it's legislation that is in draft form right now at the Chambers of Commerce. It falls under Minister of Infrastructure. Maybe he would want to speak more to it. As it relates to the casino legislation, we haven't gone forward anywhere with that. So that still is just a conversation happening.
Okay.
You want to touch on the jet ski?
Thank you for the question. As it relates to the jet ski legislation, a team from MICO would have recently met with the team at Attorney General's Chambers to discuss the entire legislative agenda for MICO. They would have mentioned that the legislation is largely completed in terms of its draft form. So what I've asked them to do is to circulate it to myself so that Cabinet can have sight of it, because we haven't actually seen what they've drafted as yet. So then after we review that, we can determine if it's the correct direction, if the legislation does exactly what we want to accomplish. And then the next step would be if we decide to proceed to take it out to public consultation as well as to the House of Assembly. So we're just waiting to receive the copy so that we can review it and then determine the best course of action from there.
All right, diversification in tourism. Again, we're looking at sports tourism, and you'll find that golf is, in fact, I'll have a report as to some of the benefits of what golf has brought to Anguilla this year, especially to our youth programs. We're also looking at the Tennis Cup, which was successful in our term between 2015 to 2020. And next year, we're looking to have a sports tourism ministers conference here in Anguilla. So the idea is that sports tourism is part of the diversification. And it's not just about persons coming into Anguilla, but Anguillians being actively involved in the sports themselves.
Honorable Connor, while you're on the question about sports, I know it's been quite some time that the question have been asked and continue to be asked. I got two questions. First, during the last administration, there had been a series of cricket matches playing, and it was dubbed the Premier's Cup.
Yes.
And could you give me an idea as to why this particular cricket tournament has not continued?
Well, I think that initially when the Premier's Cup started under the previous government, it was a political stint. It really was. To the degree that by the third year, I think, majority of the teams in Anguilla refused to play. But as we go forward, what I will say is last year, our first year in this term, was that Anguilla had some success in Antigua, winning the 2020 tournament. They were not as successful in St. Kitts in a longer version, but I think you'll find that the Cricket Association, and along with the support from the government of Anguilla or the sports department, we're going to look to not just about playing matches with retired players, but look to develop the youngsters from the primary school level. And I think that is the area we really need to focus on.
So whether it would have been considered political or otherwise, you being somebody involved in sports and cricket for a number of years, don't you think it's a good idea to see it could be reinvented or revitalized or what have you?
Right, well, 100%. Cricket was my career, and in fact, where I am today is because of cricket. And the fact is, from the early 90s up until I got actively involved in politics, I helped to spearhead Anguilla's development in cricket. You know, a number of the cricketers that went on to play for the West Indies at under 15s, under 19s, and senior level. But what you have to be careful of, that politicians can get too involved in certain sports. You cannot. It is run by the associations with support from government. It's when governments try to override, that's when you run into problems.
Last question.
But the idea is that we will take cricket forward.
Now that we're on that point about taking cricket forward, where are we as relates to, and it has always been asked, as relates to the funds that were obtained through the cricket match in England for the development of the Webster's Park, and where are we now with the development of the Webster's Park?
There are two sectors of funds. The funds you're talking about for the development of the park, the match in England,
yes, sir,
actually came to the West Indies Board, not to the government of Anguilla. It went to the West Indies Board, who then passed it on to the Leeward's Board and the Windward's Board, because Dominica was involved as well. The money that Anguilla was allocated went to the Anguilla Cricket Association and was invested in the nets and also material at the park. So that's where those funds went. The funds that were raised 3 years ago on the back of what we did in England in 2018 is still sitting in a fund in England. And once there are plans in place for the development of the Players Pavilion, those will be released. And we're working on that as soon as.
Are there any truth to changes of the Webster's Park structure and having the main part of the pavilion on the opposite side of the grounds instead of where it is now?
Yes. I think that decision has been made because you cannot have serious further development on the northern side with the proximity of the football stadium and also the road. If you look at the park, in fact, even for the way the wind blows, it is better, and the sun, the direction of the sun, that the pavilion, the main pavilion on Players Pavilion, is actually on the southern side. So that those adjustments will be made.
So we're hoping to see something soon.
Of course we are.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Connor.
Thank you very much. As at the end of April 2026, the total public debt was EC $282.74 million. A payment of some $4.1 million will be made at the end of June. And to note, the total debt in May of 2025 was $317 million. And so you can see the steady decline in terms of the total public debt. As at the end of the first quarter of 2026, government's revenue performance has been ahead of expectations, while expenditure has remained contained. This has supported a solid cash and reserve position and reflects continued discipline in the management of the public finances. On the revenue side, year-to-date collections at the end of the first quarter of 2026 stood at EC 187.38 million, and that represents 31.4% of the annual budgeted revenue of EC 595.88 million. This is a strong result for the first quarter and indicates that revenue inflows have outperformed the level originally anticipated at this stage of the year. Revenues performance has been particularly strong in the general services tax and domain name registration, which together have been the principal drivers of the overall surplus in collections. More broadly, year-to-date revenue is 24.6% higher than the same period in 2025, which is a significant improvement and reflects the continued strength of the government's revenue base in the early part of the year. On the expenditure side, performance has remained controlled. Year-to-date expenditure at the end of quarter one stood at EC $69.78 million, representing 17.5% of the annual budgeted expenditure of EC $397.79 million. This is approximately 12% below the cumulative expenditure profile for the same period. That position reflects continued restraint in expenditure management and also in part the timing of certain spending, and this has affected the timing of disbursements. Taken together, stronger than expected revenue collections and contained expenditure have contributed to a favorable fiscal outturn in the first quarter. Are there any questions or comments in relation to this presentation?
I was just wondering, number of civil servants have been just wondering and asking me to ask you all, when can we expect the raise, the civil servant raise?
Yeah, so the public service compensation review is being done through the governor's office under the deputy governor's portfolio. And I anticipate that the deputy governor will make a further update. The last update was given was that it was anticipated that if it was that the compensation would be made retroactive. Whenever it's put into effect, it would be made retroactive to May of 2026. So in terms of further explanations and that, we'd have to look to the deputy governor in relation to that.
Yes. And I know some time ago you would have mentioned that a team of lawyers would have been looking into the actual ownership of this building.
Yes.
Any update? It's been quite a while.
Yes, we're still waiting for the legal opinion. It's been some time. It's actually been since the resolution from 2016. So it's actually been 10 years trying to get a legal opinion, but we're close to getting it. In the meantime, we're looking at ways in which we can occupy the additional portions of the building that is not utilized.
Mm-hmm. I know it's currently before the court, the case with the offshore depositors. Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you can give the update the public on with this?
Not at this time.
Premier, while on the question about this building, I know that you were part of the administration of when Mr. Banks was Premier, and just before the Premier took office, when the Premier took office, he discontinued payment of the monies that should have been paid to some entity relative to ownership of this building.
That is Dr. Lorenzo Webster. That's the former Premier. That's who you're speaking about. Dr. Lorenzo Webster, when he was Premier?
Yes, he had discontinued the payment.
Yes, okay.
I probably didn't make any payment. So I have to ask you now, you had any idea who these monies were paid to when you were part of the administration with Mr. Banks? Because when this building was taken over by government, monies were going to somebody.
Yeah, so I was not the Minister of Finance at the time, so I cannot tell you. I did not know who the monies were being paid to. It may have been the receiver, but I cannot be sure. It may have been the receiver. I think yes. Yes, it was the receiver.
My last question
I think
of
so.
concern as relates to finance. I'm privileged to some alarming figures relative to government purchasing of lands. So I am to ask you, when government enters into negotiation between landowners to purchase land, how involved is the technical team, let's say, down at Lands and Surveys? Because I know whenever lands are being purchased, normally people will go to Lands and Surveys, get an idea from them as to what is the cost of land sold in the particular area at the time. But based on the alarming numbers that I'm seeing, I'm a bit concerned as to how the government will go about spending so much of monies on pieces of land that is at that time valued much, much less than what is being sold for. I don't need you to go into detail. I could probably come into your office and sit down, but I'm just wanting to find out how much information the government get, and in your case as premier, before such decisions are made.
Yeah, so lands falls under the Minister of Lands, Honorable Kyle Hodge. But there are a couple of things that you said that I want to address.
Yes.
One, I'm not sure you make a general statement to say that the government is spending more money on land than the value of the land. And I would probably like you to provide further details in terms of that, because it's a general statement that's being made, and I can't tell you that I know for a fact that that's indeed the case. As I'm not the Minister of Lands, I do not have that information in terms of what whether there's a valuation done and then the cost the government is paying out, etc. The other thing as well is, I'm surprised you say that government is acquiring an alarming amount of land, because government is actually the smallest landowner collectively in Anguilla. We all know, unlike other jurisdictions where government controls the majority of the land, in Anguilla, the government does not. And so government has limited land. And if government wants to accomplish a number of things, such as building homes for persons to be able to purchase, etc., to provide for certain areas, even for instance in terms of the track and field, government is looking at purchasing or acquiring lands of that nature. So government will always need land, whether it's to swap, whether it's for development, whether it's infrastructural work. Government will always need land. So I'm surprised that you consider it to be an alarming amount. And then in the particular constituencies, if the ministers, or if elected members, or if the community themselves identify certain areas of land that they would like to have owned by the government, so that there can be community activities that take place on those properties, I'm not sure I understand if there's a difficulty in doing that, because at the end of the day, we want to be able to enhance our communities. We want to be able to provide for public spaces. We want to be able to provide for parks, recreational areas, gathering points, etc. So I'm a little surprised that you would think that acquiring land for those purposes is not in the public interest or is important for the public.
No, I'm not saying it's not in the public interest and it's not a good idea, but I'm speaking in terms of the cost. So how involved is the government in when they're making the final decision as to these particular pieces of property? To be a little bit more specific, Premier, the two pieces of properties that were purchased in the Valley North area just a few weeks ago, just over a month or so. One piece of property, 1.2 acres of land, was purchased. It's already turned over to the government at a total cost of $140,000 US. In addition, after that, during my investigation, I found out that the land is in a swampy area, number one. No construction could be built on it. Based on planning regulations, it might be difficult to get planning to approve any sort of structure on that land. But in addition to that, The land in that area is only sold for like around $15,000. A half acre. Quarter acre, yeah. So I'm saying, why is it that the government of Angola going to see it fit to spend $140,000 on 1.2 acres of land? That's all I'm asking. And the reason I'm asking that question is because if government would have taken the cue from Department of Lands and Surveys or wherever, the question is whether or not government would still go ahead and spend all this money, because based on what I'm gathering, the land should have been a total like less like 80,000.
To answer your question, Mr. Richardson,
Yes, sir.
the specific purchase you're referencing,
Yes.
it was purchased after instructions and valuations done by the Department of Lands and Surveys. We didn't act outside of that. So valuations were done, and I believe in this instance there were 2 valuations done. And then there's a negotiation that takes place between the Department of Land and Surveys and the landowner. The ministers, the elected representatives, we don't get involved in the negotiation at all.
There seems to be
Did that answer your question?
No,
Okay.
because there seems to be a missing link. There seems to be a missing link. Somehow the public is being misled here. Because what I'm saying, if a piece of property in that area is being sold for, let's say, $15,000, a half acre, for $15,000, why?
How close in proximity? Do you know? Because you have to. This is not the forum for this. But if you're going to reference another parcel of property, how close in proximity was it?
Just across
Was it rocky? Was it
close proximity, same
so
area?
when you say close proximity, that's
same-
relative. That's
the
still
same
relative.
area, the same
What's
area.
close?
Less than 100 feet.
Well, you got to bring some facts and more specifics to the table here if you want a really productive conversation. Other than that, we'll be going back and forth, and it's going to be useless because you're not coming here with facts. You're not coming here with parcels so that I can reference what you're saying and then get back to you. You're coming with vagueness. You can't bring vagueness to a press conference.
It's not vague. The information is in
You have not quoted. Give me the parcel number.
The information
Give
is
me the
in
parcel
lands
number and
surveys.
give me the size of the land so I can go back and verify. Do you have that?
Of course I have it.
Okay, share it.
Of course I have it. I'll tell you where to go and get it too.
Thanks.
And Lands and Surveys, you can go and get it.
It's vague.
This is exactly, it's exactly the question that you're asking, and the minister will have to go back and get the information to be able to provide a response to you. But it's exactly why I said at the very beginning of this press conference, for questions are being raised in relation to matters that do not directly arise out of the updates that are given, and there's an expectation for ministers to be able to answer off the cuff. And the question you're asking is exactly the type of information that the minister wouldn't have on hand.
All I'm saying, Mr. Minister, and I will provide you with information, but I also want to tell you that you and everybody are aware of that the government of Angola entered into negotiations with 2 landowners. One was Alistair Richardson from North Hill for the land in Stony Ground where the Honorable Shelley Rogers Webster would be having. I don't have to call people's name?
No, you don't have to. Private landowners.
But it's open.
Yeah,
And the other piece of property.
Right, but what I'm saying, Mr. Richardson, is you're reinforcing the point. The minister asked you to provide the details. So I think it's best after this press conference to share the information with the minister.
Okay,
so
fair
you
enough.
can come prepared
Fair
at
enough.
the next press conference to respond to your questions.
Fair enough.
Okay,
Thank you, Premier.
Good afternoon, all. I'll be giving an update on behalf of the Ministry of Infrastructure, Communications, Utilities, Housing, IT, and E-Government Services. And I'll begin by giving the roads updates. The road from South Hill to the Jeremiah Gums Highway The sub-base preparation continues for the last section of the road that is being finalized as we approach Jeremiah. The underground utility work continues for the last section of the road. Pouring sections of the road surface and the sidewalks continues, and the estimated construction completion is June of 2026. As it relates to the Sand Hill Road, fencing work is continuing, site cleanup is continuing, the road marking and sign installations are being planned, and the project is expected to be completed by the end of this month, May 2026. As it relates to the Valley Roads, that's the Raphael T. Lake Road as well as Albert Lake Drive, consultations with the businesses that are likely to be affected by the construction is currently ongoing. The bill of quantities is being prepared. Other elements of the invitation to bid document will be sent forward to the procurement office for review this week. And once we are given the green light by procurement, these roads will be out for competitive tender. The Road Surface Rehabilitation Program. A contract has been signed with Beston Consulting Limited, the firm responsible for undertaking the design of the road resurfacing works. The process of data collection is currently ongoing, and the consultant team will be on island next week. That is the week of the 11th May. Government accommodations. The government of Anguilla has contracted BCQS for the first phase of the government office accommodations. The team arrived on island on 20th April to begin the first round of consultations and information gathering. This information gathering session is the first step to develop the scope of the project, define the spatial requirements, etc. And the team would have had successful meetings with Cabinet as well as key ministries, departments, and stakeholders. Once all of the information is provided, and a full scoping report will be produced to the government of Anguilla, and we are hoping, anticipating that all of the information will be collected by the end of this week. As it relates to the LBCC, the retrofitting of the office space for the festival's office, this was anticipated to be completed by the 30th of April. The project has been successfully completed, and the Mike Hoots team is now supporting the Ministry of Social Development with the procurement of the furniture for the space. Ongoing projects. The retrofit of the 5 Mob building. The minor works are still being completed as it relates to fire service installation as well as ICT installation of security equipment. Radio Anguilla is now operating from the facility, which is a milestone that has been achieved. Another milestone that has been achieved is the Department of Education is also now operating from the new facility and is engaged in a phased relocation from their existing spaces to that new site. The space for the Department of Statistics is now ready, and we're awaiting the relocation of that department at their discretion. The Royal Anguilla Police Force construction of office space. The construction is aimed to be completed at the end of this month. Finishing works is ongoing to include the electrical and ICT systems, tiling, plastering, and painting. His Majesty's Prison, the construction of the workshop is now estimated to be June 2026. Previously, we would have reported an anticipated end date of May 2026. The project is currently undergoing the erection of the superstructure, which is nearing its completion, and the next phase of the work will be the preparation of the roof construction. Combined services building, the replacement of the AC systems, that too will be expected to be completed this month. 95% of the new AC units have been installed, and the project is actually anticipated to be completed by the end of this week with a target date of 8th May. Morgue extension at the Princess Alexandra Hospital. The completion date is still to be determined. Bids have been returned and are currently in the evaluation phase. Once a successful bidder has been determined, a contract will be prepared to support the commencement of the project. The ALHCS technical block, the completion date is scheduled for August 2026. The project is progressing with major work to be done on the superstructure of the agricultural and technical blocks. Project meetings are held monthly with the Department of Education, the contractor, and other stakeholders to monitor the overall progress. And as of the 30th of April, the overall project progress is about 50% completed. Again, the target completion date is August of this year. The update for the Anguilla Fire and Rescue Services, and this is split up based on the division. So the Aerodrome Division, I'm happy to announce the appointment of the new Airport Fire Service Manager, which is effective as of May 4th in the person of Mr. Carlisle Lake. So congratulations, Mr. Carlisle Lake. He has been known for excellent work in the Anguilla Fire Rescue Services, and I have no doubt that he will continue to excel in this new role. The Aerodrome Division would have responded to one recent incident where a plane was on standby. The Search and Rescue Division, they recently attended a meeting with the governor and the deputy governor to discuss the procurement of a vessel for the search and rescue to be used by the Royal Anguilla Police Force and all of the other agencies. Recent incident responses by the Search and Rescue Division, there were two. One vessel was grounded in Cap Juluca, and they also assisted the Royal Anguilla Police Force in searching for a missing person. From the Domestic Fire Prevention Division, 16 fire safety inspections were carried out, 2 firework escorts took place, fire safety training was prepared with proposed training for government agencies scheduled to take place on May 13th, that is next week. Fire certificate compliance, certificates of fire compliance were issued to 5 businesses, and they would have responded to 4 recent incidents that included brush fires and service calls. In relation to aviation, I would like to extend sincere congratulations to Mr. Vonal Gums and the entire team at Trans-Anguilla Airways on the launch of their new scheduled air service between Anguilla and the British Virgin Islands. The successful inaugural flight on April 17th marks an important milestone in strengthening regional connectivity and enhancing air travel options for residents and visitors alike. This new service underscores Trans-Anguilla's continued commitment to improving air access within the Eastern Caribbean and supports the government's broader goal of economic growth, tourism development, and regional congratulation. So I'd like to commend Mr. Gomes as well as the entire team at Trans-Anguilla, and we wish them well and every success as this new route takes flight. General airport development. Starting with phase 2, which is the terminal building and the apron. Work continues to progress. The storm pipes, the drains, the manholes are expected to be completed by the 6th of May. The parking lot and, the parking lot and the exit roadway is expected to be completed on the 20th of May. Signs, line painting, and landscape is expected to be completed by the 27th of May. Electrical and street lights completion expected also by the 27th of May. As it relates to the runway, the tender for the runway closed on April 14th, and bid evaluations are currently underway, with a final report expected to be sent to the procurement board this week. Renewable energy. The week of April 20th, a team from Greenology visited Anguilla as part of an OECS initiative funded under the EU program. The team installed and commissioned a 32 kilowatt solar system with 15.2 kilowatt hours of battery storage, as well as an 11.2 kilowatt level 2 EV charger at the Aurelia Kelly Primary School on the Western Block. The team also trained and certified 8 persons from across government in the design and maintenance of solar systems. These persons were from a cross-section of government maintenance, including ASPA, MICU, education, and health. The system is now fully functional at the Aurelia Kelly Primary School and is currently providing power for 2 of the 3 buildings there. National CCTV, the commissioner would have mentioned this morning that we had a kickoff meeting. So I'm pleased to confirm that the contract between the government of Anguilla and Digicel for national CCTV has officially been signed. I know persons were asking or were curious about the delay, but as the Premier would have mentioned with the legal opinion, sometimes when you'd have 2 legal teams going back and forth talking, it can allow for these protracted delays. But that has now come to an end. The contract is signed, and we had our kickoff meeting this morning. The kickoff meeting this morning I was in attendance along with members of my ministry from DITES, the Royal Anguilla Police Force, Digicel, both local and regional team, as well as the project manager who was contracted to oversee this project. So we're looking forward to have installations within the coming weeks. So the sooner we get there, the better. We're also discussing contingency plans for Carnival to ensure that ahead of the Anguilla Summer Festival that we have coverage, whether it's in the scope of this project or not. As it relates to DITES, I am pleased to confirm that the fiber connection to the hospital has been completed, supporting greater resilience, improved digital connectivity, and continued modernization of our healthcare services. And finally, interestingly, you would have asked about diversification of the economy. I'm happy to report on Angola's first AI conference. The government of Angola, in partnership with Identity Digital, would have recently hosted our first conference, which took place from April 14th to April 17th. The Registrar Summit was specifically focused on bringing together the top executives and decision makers at the companies that sell the .ai domain internationally. This included the chief executive officers, the chief operation officers, vice presidents, and head of domains for companies such as GoDaddy, Cloudflare, Squarespace, Dynadot, and Namecheap, to name a few of the big names that persons would recognize who are all in the room. There was even a registrar who was in attendance that, while they don't currently sell the .ai domain, they fall into the top 10 largest domain sellers throughout the world. And they were here not only by invitation, because it's our goal to get them to sell the .ai domain. And I'm happy to report within the next few weeks, they're making the current technical adjustments to their system now to facilitate the same. And by summer, we're looking at onboarding them to open up new avenues for selling the domains and domain growth. The conference, by all accounts, was a resounding success. This would have been the first time that most of the attendees visited Angola, and like most visitors that come to Angola, once they come, they fell in love immediately. Not only with the island, but particularly with the people, and I really want to commend all of the people of Angola who were the various touch points, because that was one of the things from the moment the conference began that you kept hearing reverberating, whether it was the greeters at the airport, the taxi men, the persons at the hotel, or when they went out in to visit the island, all of the interactions they had with the locals left a lasting impression on all of our attendees. Some of the attendees came with their partners, and those who did already have plans to come back. And those who didn't bring their partners have no choice but to return with their partners because they're jealous that they didn't make this trip. I had one attendee said that he's been going to these kind of conferences or domain-related conferences for over 20 years, and this was the first time that his spouse was ever interested in traveling with him. So all in all, we had some very good discussions. They also mentioned that this conference was a first of its kind, in the sense that usually when they're in the same room together attending these conferences, they do so as competitors, but this environment was a bit different because we wanted to push not only the growth of .ai in general, but establish their connection to Angola, tell the .ai story, let them see and understand the impact that they're having, while also being able to hear their concerns and answer any questions that they had. So I think that we had some very productive discussions that were focused around how we can get win-win decisions and solutions and outcomes. And when we say win-win, not just for the registrars, not just for Identity Digital, and not just for the government of Angola, but mainly for the people of Angola, the current generations and future generations to come. While all of the registrars are already looking forward to returning next year, as we want to make this an annual conference, discussions are already underway as to how they can further help build the community and capacity, the local talent here on the ground, whether that's in education or further training. And we've already had 2 or 3 registrars already express interest in having a physical presence in Angola, because we would have told them that that's part of the overall vision of AI development, where we want to center Angola as that place for the growth of AI, these conversations to take place, and ultimately be able to get some of our local talent and persons coming through our education system to be able to work with them, while they also have the benefit of setting up office and working from paradise, because that's just how all of them described it. I would like to thank my permanent secretary, my principal assistant secretaries, and the team at the ministry, along with the entire cabinet for their support, along with the team at Identity Digital and Belmont Capjuluka, and everyone else who would have played a part in pulling this event together and ensuring its success. I think it set a good template to a proof of concept to show that Angola can diversify within tourism into conference tourism. And in fact, we would have had a representative who was there who would have mentioned that their company does an annual trip every year, And the discussions were already underway to say that maybe Anguilla could be a potential destination, if not for the conference later this year, definitely for next year, because they think that the executives at their company would love this location. The AI conference that's expected to take place in June in partnership between my ministry, the House of Assembly, and the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association continues to progress well in terms of its planning and preparation, and we look forward to ensuring that that conference too is also a success. That brings me to the end of my update for today.
Thank you, sir. Two questions. One, the first one has in relation to the entrance from the southern main road onto the main road that is now being almost completed. That should be completed by the end of April. What is the problem why that particular area haven't been adjoined as yet? I know Mr. Richardson has been saying they were having discussion with the utility suppliers, and could you tell me what is the reason why that particular road has not been joined as yet?
Yes, so the reason it wasn't done initially was due to a water connection and the electricity pole that was there. After the equipment would have mobilized a certain distance as it progressed towards Jeremiah, I would have spoken with the contractor, and he was saying that due to the mobilization of some equipment that would be needed on both ends, he first needs to complete that section at Jeremiah before mobilizing the equipment from there back to the entrance to finish that last section. One of the major impediments that would need to be done there as well is the relocation of that electricity pole. We've been having back and forth discussions with Anglic because in terms of figuring out what's needed. That will cause a major disruption to the west, so that's where the discussions with the utilities was coming in so that they can liaise with businesses. I can confirm as of this morning that Anglic would have sent us the invoice for the relocation of that pole, and that was paid this morning. So now that we're nearing completion at the Jeremiah end, we can expect to see that pole relocated in short order, and then works progress to complete that project.
How is the government dealing with this issue? I don't know if the Premier will have to answer this one. I think at some point in time, the government had agreed to compensate Anglic for the extra fuel charges cost to the customers. I would like to know how is the government getting through with that. And my last question for you, Mr. Vanderpool, has to do with the fact that I've been hearing that there have been some calls to separate the domestic fire from the fire and rescue services at the airport. And if that has to come into effect, then the government will have to consider getting a building to house the domestic side of the fire, including the fire trucks and what have you. You heard anything about that?
Yes, so discussions are underway for the eventual splitting separation of the domestic and the aerodrome functions. There's a number of reasons for that, particularly as when we go to the runway expansion and you get larger aircrafts coming in, there is an issue between fire personnel going in and out of the aerodrome. If it's a case of emergency and they have to move quickly, the scanning, and that's some issues with the regulatory, the ASA who regulates us. It will also allow for the sharing of staff, so we're looking at locations that are in the valley area and close to the fire hall for positioning that domestic outpost, should you say, so that if you need personnel to move quickly between the domestic and the aerodrome, or if you need to share equipment for whatever reasons, that it's easy to facilitate doing so. But when it comes down to an operational level, the factors of what's needed on the aerodrome side and the domestic side, it has been determined that that is a strategic move in terms of splitting the two functions. Funds have not been budgeted this year for the construction of a domestic fire hall, but we have told the fire chief as well as his team to start making the necessary discussions, and I know that they have been discussing with the team at Maiku in terms of what would be needed in terms of plans, so that they can start putting together an idea so that when it comes to budget season, we have a figure in mind to progress the same plans.
Let's hope, based on what happened with Hurricane Irma, that it won't be finally decided to have the domestic side of the fire station housed anywhere in the valley area. I'm understanding that I'm part of the team, so I have to say this way. You understand what I mean?
So are you talking about because of the flooding?
Yes. In a consideration to put a new domestic fire hall together, probably rule out the valley area for that purpose.
We agree with you. That's one of the reasons that we wanted to relocate the track.
I ain't going into that. Over to you now, Madam, for the last question.
I was just reflecting that it may well mean that government may have to find land.
Yeah, everything. I ain't got nothing to say. As relates to, I think the government had decided that they would pay a certain percentage of the fuel surcharge bill
For it.
for 2 months.
Repeat your question, please.
Yeah, the government didn't agree to subsidize a certain portion of the fuel surcharge bill to Anglic.
Yes.
And I think, based on my understanding, bills are due to come out soon,
Yes.
like maybe this week self. So how is government getting through with, because from my understanding, it's going to be quite a lot of money to
Yeah,
pay
it's
out.
about
Few
the
$1 million worth.
total relief package is
Yeah.
some $10 million.
It's a lot of money.
Anglec is the $6 million. That's for a period of 2 months. It is quite a bit of money, and I think that the people appreciate that, because what the government of Anguilla is doing is we're capping the fuel surcharge at 42 cents per kilowatt hour. Thank you. And anything beyond that, the government of Anguilla is absorbing that cost. So Anglec, shortly after we announced our relief package, Anglec we have announced that the fuel surcharge had gone up to 88 cents per kilowatt hour. So that difference is what the government of Anguilla is absorbing, the 46 cents per kilowatt hour, which is significant. And then as well, we've taken off the duties off of the importation of fuel and the customs service fee. So, so there's a suite that we put together, entire package to be able to at least buffer the increase in fuel prices worldwide.
Thank you. And Mr. Vanderpool, as relates to renewable energy, like I think the loan has been obtained from CDB. I think you did say that.
Yes, the loan has been signed off, and the agreement has been signed between Anglic and the CDB.
So we are on that now going forward.
So right now, they are at the stage of formulating a project management unit to oversee the project. I believe, well, no, I can confirm that they have already advertised for the positions that they need on that project management unit. I believe it's being advertised locally as well as regionally. And so once that unit is in place, that's the current next step in terms of moving the project forward, but it is continuing to progress.
And
in addition to that, Anglic has met with government, and we continue to have very close discussions, because given the geopolitical landscape, anything that we can do to help speed up the transition or help wean us off of fossil fuels as quickly as possible, we're exploring other options as well. So discussions are actively ongoing.
And the lands where the first 1 megawatt plant was, that area is going to be used and more?
That area and more, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Vanderpool, a suggestion in reference to the hedges that are planted along the boulevard, particularly by the roundabout coming up to government offices, the courthouse area. They're too high, and when you're coming from north to south to take the left, the first exit from that in the roundabout, you can't really see vehicles coming until you're actually in the road itself. And close to the People's Market, the Buttonwood is extremely high. And I think it needs to be brought down by at least a third, because not only that it's high, but it's a security risk also.
Thank you for that feedback. It's duly noted, and I'll pass it on to the team.
Mr. Vanderpool, in relation to Anglic, is the new CEO currently on island?
I know that he was due to be on island in recent times in order to start looking around, acquainting himself with the team, potentially looking for a home and somewhere to house himself. But whether or not he is on island right now, I am not certain of, but certainly if he's here right now, that's just to meet the team, get acquainted,
So
and get.
you haven't met him? You haven't met
I
him?
haven't met him yet, no, and he's not functioning in the role of CEO as yet.
Yeah.
So the initial trip was just for him to get established, meet the team, but I haven't met him as yet, no.
Okay. In relation to the CDB loan, will that also be covering land costs for the solar panels, etc.?
Sorry,
Or
when
will-
you say land cost for the solar panels?
Yes, because it will be a solar project. Will that also cover purchasing land, or is there currently enough land in?
Anglic already has all of the land that they need either purchased or leased from the government to complete the entire project, all 3 phases. They have all of the required lands.
Okay. And with the current increase in prices all over the world, is there any, are you relooking at the current loan figure, or will it be enough to fulfill the project?
Well, the loan that was taken out was for phase 1 of the project, which is the first 12 megawatts. And that's why I was saying that we are in discussion between government and Anglic as to what are other mechanisms they may be able to explore to speed up the renewable energy transition, understanding that we don't know how long this war will be going on for. We don't know when oil prices will come down, if they ever do come down. So whether it's government support, whether it's figuring out where they are at with in terms of reaching out to the local banks, in terms of figuring out what grant funding there is out there available for such projects and resilience in our area, we're exploring every option.
Okay. And just a rough timeline, how soon can we expect to be feeling the relief from the solar project?
I don't want to give you a definitive timeline because when I ask for that, I don't get one, but before the end of the year.
Okay.
There are no further questions. I'll hand over to Mr. Connor.
Thank you, Minister Vanderpool. I will start with tourism. Now, following a record-breaking year in 2025, when Angola achieved its highest annual visitor arrivals in 33 years, the destination continues to show strong growth in 2026. During the first quarter, Angola recorded significant year-over-year increases, with March 2026 achieving the highest March visitor arrivals in over 34 years. For the first 3 months of 2026, Angola welcomed approximately 90,017 visitors, compared to 69,259 visitors during the same period in 2025. This represents an estimated 30% increase in total visitor arrivals. The monthly performance was also strong. January 2026 had 29,325 arrivals compared to 23,548 in January of 2025, reflecting a 24.5% increase. February had 27,365 arrivals, which compared to 23,086 in February of 2025, reflecting an 18.5% increase. March 2026, 33,327 arrivals. That was compared to 22,625 in March of 2025. That's reflecting an increase of 47.3%. That's more than 10,000, almost 11,000 visitors. Stayover arrivals reached 46,691 visitors in January to March 2026 compared to 37,000 in 2025, representing an increase of 24.6%. Excursionist arrivals also performed strongly, with March recording 16,634 excursionists. That is a 68.8% increase over March of 2025. The United States remains Angola's leading source market, accounting for 75.9% of stayover arrivals in March 2026. Canada also showed notable growth, with Canadian stopover arrivals increasing by 40% during the first quarter of 2026 compared to 2025. April 2026, marketing initiatives and engagements and events. During April, the Anguilla Tourist Board advanced several key initiatives to strengthen destination visibility, market engagement, and tourism development. With regional connectivity, my colleague Jose Vanderpool would have mentioned about Trans-Anguilla Airways to Tortola. The Anguilla service in April marked an important milestone with the launch of Trans-Anguilla's Air Service Direct service between Anguilla and Tortola, British Virgin Islands, which began on April 17, 2026. The service operates 3 times weekly and strengthens regional air access, supporting leisure travel, event visitation, and improved connectivity. Anguilla Culinary Experience 2026. April also served as an important promotional period for the Anguilla Culinary Experience, scheduled for May 13 to 17, 2026. Returning for its 5th year, the event continues to position Anguilla as a leading culinary destination while showcasing local talent, visiting chefs, and destination-wide culinary experiences. CTO, Sustainable Tourism Conference 2026. Anguilla was also represented at the Caribbean Conference on Sustainable Tourism Development 2026, which was held from the 27th April to the 30th, 2026 in San Pedro, Belize. The conference focused on sustainable planning, resilience, environmental protection, cultural value, inclusive growth, and responsible tourism development across the Caribbean. So, on tourism, Anguilla's first quarter tourism performance reflects continued momentum, strong market demand, and a positive impact of sustained investment in strategic marketing, trade and media engagement, air access development, and regional collaboration. The Anguilla Tourist Board remains committed to advancing the destination through targeted marketing initiatives, meaningful stakeholder partnerships, and continued engagement with high-level travel trade, media, airline, cruise, and regional tourism partners. I'll switch to sports and to talk a bit about the Duke of Edinburgh charitable organization. In fact, after deductions, that is the levy and travel costs for the winners, and adding the additional donation from the Duke of Edinburgh charity, the total net pot to be distributed will be $35,455.06. The committee, which has been organized, will have agreed to invite bids for projects that would support youth development in Anguilla. 15% of the total net funds would be specifically allocated for youth golf. The Anguilla Golf Association will be asked to provide a project proposal to include a short reporting mechanism on how the funds will be used. And last week, we had the Malcolm Marshall Cancer Golf Fundraiser. Malcolm Marshall was a former West Indies, Barbados, Hampshire, and Natal cricketer who died on November 4th, 1999 in Barbados. The cause of death was colon cancer. The Malcolm Marshall Cancer Golf Fundraiser took place on the 25th, as I said, and the total funds raised to date of $46,944.85, and that is US. Donations raised will be made to the Anguilla Cancer Society and Anguilla Youth Cricket Development. I want to say special thanks to all the persons and businesses that contributed to make this event a huge success, namely Mr. and Mrs. Bob Seamus, Sir Tony Gallagher and Alan Lamb, former England cricketer, Eric Sprott, the Palmer family, Aurora International Golf Club, Richard Phillips, especially the head pro there, all the golfers that took part in the fundraiser, especially the visiting members of the St. Martin Golf Clubs and St. Bart Golf Clubs. Overall winners, and it was a couples event, were first place Larry Stott and Val Banks, second place with David and Kathy Lawson, and third place Kyle Edwards and Magda Gums, a 14-year-old golfer. Individual winners and the longest drive, not a surprise, was Cardigan Connor. Ladies' longest drive was Natalie La Senichal. Closest to the pin on hole 2 was David Lawson. Hole 8 was Theron from Picante. John Vasadka was on one closest on hole 11, and Wayne Parks on hole 15. I'd like also to say thank you for those who donated auction prizes, namely Steve Haynes, Capchuluca Hotel, Belmont Capchuluca, Sandy Island, Vea, Kiraya, Dan Bidard, Picante, Lauren and Karen for the art, Maluhana Hotel, Sholbay Villas, Elodius, and Aurora Spa. The raffle prizes came from Anguilla Garden Center, Love Shack, Dames Olas, Sandbar, Devonish, Doreen, Tastes, Carolyn, the Kiwi hairdresser, and Nichols store in the Valley. A special thanks to Jackie Ruwan for sourcing the raffle prizes, to Jason and his support staff at Tipsy Turtle for putting it all together, and a special thank you to Lloyd Gums from Lloyd's Live for covering throughout the day and over the past 4 tournaments. On Fun Day, 1st of May, the Premier and I were there to see what was a very competitive Fun Day. I must say congratulations to the Four Seasons team on their success in winning the activity. Aurora, who finished second, but they also won the award for the largest team in numbers. Congratulations also to the Capchuluca team on winning the tug of war. And a special thank you to the health team, because during that tug of war finals, 2 of the anchors, I would say, they had some physical challenges. So that's when the call for the health team to come out. And also the health team, they took part in the tug of war as well. It was 6 ladies and 1 guy. Usually it was about 5 guys and 2 girls, but again, I must say well done to them. Bit of congratulations to Jamar Hamilton on his batting performance for the Leeward Islands versus Trinidad and Tobago Red Force. He scored 100 in the first innings and 50 not out in the second innings. I think that's his first 100 in some time, so congratulations to him. Congratulations also to the Anguilla ITF Taekwondo team who competed in Philadelphia. They're bringing home 9 golds, 2 silvers, and 4 bronze. I'm not sure why my colleague wasn't there to bring that extra gold home. And in cricket, again, I know that Elkin would have made a point earlier, but we just want to point out about the Anguilla Premier League. I believe, and going forward, it should not be run by the Anguilla Premier, but should be run by the Anguilla Cricket Association. If there are any questions, in fact, I'm not going to say much on nurses. I will leave that to my senior medical advisor. Any questions?
Yes. Currently in the Caribbean, U.S. streamer iShow Speed is doing a tour, a Caribbean tour.
Yes.
And it's bringing much visibility to a number of the Caribbean islands. I was wondering if our tourism authorities would have reached out to the iShow Speed team to possibly have him come to Anguilla also, and if not, why not?
Well, as far as I know, that our team did not reach out to him. I'm not sure. Again, that's one of those questions where I have to ask the director and the staff whether or not they reached out to him or whether or not they see that as an appeal that Anguilla is looking for.
And again, we're coming down to what is known as the slow season in these summer months. What efforts have been made to try to bring tourism as a year-round industry here in Anguilla?
Well, what has been done? Well, I think what you find when we talk about our tourism numbers have gone up every month, year over year, which says that the message is getting out there. What I will say, even though Bermuda is not operating over the next 6 months, that they would have had a positive impact on Anguilla being able, our team at the Tourist Board, being able to market to a number of persons in Boston, Baltimore, Washington, and of course Newark as well. And again, the Canadian numbers have gone up by some 40%. I think that is a market that we will continue to look to invest in. And also, for a number of years, I think for about 5 years, we've neglected the European market and especially the British market. So I think these are areas where the Europeans tend to travel or have longer holidays than the US. So you find that's probably an area, and it has worked for us in the past. We have to promote more when it comes to our festival events. We also, when we talk about sports tourism, again, that is another avenue that, again, we look to bring more and more people to Anguilla. Of course, the work that's going on at the airport would suggest that the word of Anguilla is getting out there, and that as we put the work in now, we will see the benefits later on, I'm sure.
Can you give us an update on the marina?
And the marina, I think that it's going along well, to be quite honest. In fact, the pontoons, my colleague, in fact, he's not here at the moment, Kyle Hodge, we were down there on Saturday, watched them maneuver them into place. So I think that is moving along nicely.
If you recall, what is the expected completion date?
Completion date?
Yeah.
I haven't got a completion date offhand, but we can definitely get that for you. But you know what that's like. Completion dates are dependent on unforeseen circumstances as well. I'd like now to hand over to the Senior Advisor in Health, Honorable Evans Wendell Rogers.
Thank you very much, Kadi. Pleasant good afternoon to those of you who are here and those of you who are listening. In healthcare, it's a continuum. We are continuing with the works that I would have outlined here, physical structure, equipment, and instruments, and so on a number of occasions. We're still plagued in terms of filling some vacancies, again, because of the cost of living and the expectation that someone mentioned before in terms of the salaries review and so on and so forth, but we are working towards that. Again, our prime focus is to improve the quality of the health services that we have and to increase, such services thereabout. I would have indicated on a number of occasions what we're doing in terms of developing another theater to be able to do orthopedic surgeries and ophthalmology surgeries as well. The upgrade is ongoing. I would have indicated before that we have a new laparoscopic tower. Excuse me. C-arm is already on island. We are looking at the laminar flow, a new ultrasound, state-of-the-art ultrasound machine, and we had planned to have the first joint replacement here in Anguilla by the end of this month, but because of global issues with respect to transportation, some of the stuff is stuck between Miami and Cayman Islands. We are hoping that we'll be able to get it on island and continue with those services. I would have mentioned on a number of occasions about mammography service. I would have mentioned that the new state-of-the-art mammography machine is on island. It has been successfully installed at the Welch's Polyclinic, and we intend this week, Thursday at 4:30 p.m., to have a ribbon cutting ceremony. The donors of that equipment, they will be on island, and we think that it's a golden opportunity to have them here to cut the ribbon for such a sizable investment in the island. I think it is only right and fitting for them to do that. We continue to seek training for radiographers to be able to use the equipment. The radiographers that we have, not that they can't use the equipment, but there's a lot of software upgrades, and we would want to utilize the machine to its full capacity and make sure that we're able to do the procedures that it is earmarked for. We're having a little difficulty in terms of, because of scheduling and so on to get one or two individuals off the training, because that training is being sponsored by GE. It is in their best interest to have the operators of the equipment, equip and familiarize themselves so that they can optimize their piece of equipment, going forward for the benefit of the patients. So we're working on that. While we'll have the ribbon cutting ceremony and so on, the actual services will be delayed for a short while until we get everything in terms of the training in place. After the ribbon cutting ceremony, there will be a celebratory function at the governor's office compounds. Again, the donors of the equipment will be there and sharing their thoughts, and to meet and greet and have conversations with one another. There's been quite a bit of work in terms of services. The Philips MRI machine is now back in operation. There were some issues in terms of the helium. They had some technicians that were in here. They were doing preventative as well as regular maintenance on not only the MRI, but the CT and X-ray machines as well. We would have invested and purchased a number of dental equipment and instruments, because we intend to increase and improve the service of our dental services that are offered on island a little later on. And while I'm on it, this year's program, we have started the registration of the medication program, I call it, because again, the donors of the mammography equipment, they are the ones who decided that this year's project will be to provide medication for diabetic and hypertensive patients who are not covered under insurance. So we're looking at that. We are, as a matter of fact, today, we would have finalized the registration form that will be in the Ministry of Health for those patients who have been diagnosed with hypertension or diabetes, to come up to the ministry and on the second floor of the Rowan building to register. We're also using this month as Nurses Month. They're going to the various churches, going to the various employer sites and hotels and so on, and they will have registration forms as well for individuals to register for this medication program, I call it. So that in and of itself would be a game changer for those individuals who are struggling and having a bit of problems, purchasing their medications because they don't have any sort of insurance at all. This is a pilot program. It's going to be funded by the shops, and we are having it for 12 months. Then we'll be able to have an idea as to, how much it costs, how many individuals will be on it, and so on and so forth, so that next year, God's willing, we'll have a better idea as to the cost of it. And then we will continue in phase 2, where they will provide the machines for testing your glucose and for monitoring your blood pressure. Of course, with modern technology, you don't have to stick your finger anymore and get a sample of blood. There are all sorts of equipment that you can do that. You don't have to go to the polyclinics anymore to take your blood pressure. There are all sorts of devices where you can put around your wrist, similar to a watch, and have it monitored and so on and so forth. So there's quite a bit of work that they intend to support and to sponsor as we're going forward in terms of healthcare. Again, I'm appealing to the young folks, and we intend to go into the school, the fifth formers and sixth formers, to find out who are interested in the healthcare field, so that we'll be able to get them off to study, and in preparation for the new medical complex that a little further down the road would be taking place in terms of the construction and then the opening and so on. But we want to have as many of our local individuals who are interested in the healthcare professionals to be here on island well-trained to be here on the island, so that we'll start off on a positive note in terms of providing health care for our citizens. Again, it's Nurses Week. It's an entire program for the entire week, daily, and I know they're going to visit a number of churches. On Saturday, we were at the Adventist Church down in South Hill. It was a wonderful service. It was a great turnout by the nurses and supporting staff. And the month started off on a positive note, and they'll continue to carry that message around. So stay tuned. They will be on various radio programs, throughout the month, sort of advertising their program. And that's my update for today. If any questions, if you don't have them now, you can wait until we're here again, you can ask them.
Thank you, Honorable. You seem prepared and raring to go. So that brings us to the end of this Government of Anguilla press conference. We thank you for listening and viewing. We wish you a wonderful day and a very productive week. All the best to you.